Welcome back to Do Theology. We have a short little episode for you today to talk about a couple of announcements that are important for the future of this show. Ken, you want to get us started in that conversation? You took notes about it. We just discussed it.
Oh, yes. I have my great big long list here of all the detailed information that we need to know.
That they need to know. We already
Yes.
know
You, maybe.
it. Okay, let's do this. Here we go.
So we just concluded season 1, right? Where we talked about all these different things in theology. We introduced the concept of the charts that we have, and even that chart itself is built upon the foundation of sola and tota scriptura, and how that informs everything and is critical to how we understand theology. In particular, how we understand these issues of primary, secondary, and doubtful things as we have in our chart. And we think those things are critical for us to understand. They lay a foundation for us as we continue to unpack some more of these ideas as we move forward. But as we have concluded that section, where our last episode was on Doubtful Things Part 2, that kind of concludes Season 1. And that Season 1 essentially forms a unit that we would love if you would share that with people. The reason why we have begun having this conversation and then even turned into a podcast to begin with is because we believe that this is critical information that God's church needs to think through and to develop convictions about, and to think intentionally about how God's word informs us as we do theology.
And if you're not on iTunes, you may not know that was like season 1. I think iTunes might be the only place where it really shows up, season 1 and 2. But that's what we've been doing, is kind of laying down the foundation for season 1 to move on to some different and more exciting things for season 2 and beyond. And speaking of iTunes, I just pulled it up. We have a 5.0 out of 5 rating on iTunes, which is cool. And there's more than just one rating. That's also cool.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that, why don't you do that? Why don't you go rate the podcast? If you're a listener, if you've benefited from this, however you listen to it, if there's a way for you to click a number of stars, that would be helpful. So try that out.
But only do it if you're going to leave us a 5-star rating, right? I mean,
I would take a 4.
Yeah. Good. Well, because the reason why it's important, because as we're trying to get this information to more people, if it's highly rated in places like iTunes or however you listen to this, it's going to find its way to more people naturally. And so we sure would appreciate if you would do that. Sharing is a form of currency in many ways. So if you share these episodes, share information about our podcast, we would appreciate that as well. And that rating and review goes a long way for us also.
And speaking of currency, I mean, we don't have a Patreon page. We don't have any plans of setting one up at this time at all. I know a lot of podcasts out there do, and they ask for some support. We don't. We just want you to share. We want this information to get out to people because we think it really is valuable in and of itself. Mm-hmm. And another way that you can do that is on our Facebook page. For the first, 90 or 95% of our existence, we didn't have any social media page at all, but now we have a Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/dotheology, give us a like over there, and you can also leave a rating there. So if you don't use iTunes or whatever, just go on to Facebook and drop 5 stars on there. That would be awesome.
Yep, that would help us out in a great deal. So we'd appreciate that. We wanted to share as well, we recorded many of our episodes in advance of their release. And so that kind of there's benefits to that on our end, right? But in terms of communication with the audience and with the community of people who are listening, it didn't generate a lot of interaction because of that. So, but we do want to have that. We do want to interact with you, the listener. If you have thoughts, if you have questions, if there's something that was unclear and you want more clarification about, we encourage you to reach out to us. We have an email address. You can reach us at show@dotheology.com. Drop us an email there. You can communicate with us through the Facebook page, through Facebook Messenger and things like that. So,
or even find our own individual Facebook profiles and find us on there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we encourage you to interact with us in that way, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to get to some of your answers, some of your questions, and answer them on the show, and begin to have some more of that dialogue.
Now, thinking about between season 1 and season 2, there are lots of things going on right now. One of the things that we're doing currently, we actually just finished one, is we are collecting interviews with some people that you know. These are exciting interviews from our perspective. We're having cool conversations with people that really are in a different level of ministry than we're in. They're doing more than just typical run-of-the-mill local church ministry. They are involved on a grander scale with a lot of parachurch ministries that causes them to see primary, secondary, and tertiary doctrines in a different way. So we're having those conversations and we're collecting them through the summer. We will be releasing a trailer for season 2 as we get closer to September, and we'll let you know about that on the podcast and on our Facebook page. So be watching out for that. And also, we're going to explore the possibility of switching podcast hosts. And if that happens, we will be sure to let you know on this RSS feed that you're already subscribed to, so that you can just jump right on over to the new one when that time comes.
Yeah, and that's going to be really critical, because as Jeremy mentioned, the interviews that we've been having, these are some really important interviews, and really, at least important from our perspective. But they're with some really neat people that we think they have some very key insights that are going to be important for you to listen to, for you to hear. And so once we do get around to changing those podcast hosts, it's going to be really important, if you want to hear those interviews, to make sure you subscribe to the new feed, and make yourself connected in that way. So
Yeah. And so what we'll be doing now for the coming weeks, since we won't be producing new content that you've been used to on our podcast of the two of us dialoguing about these issues, we're actually going to be releasing some conversations that have been had outside of this podcast. A particular one for the next several weeks, you're going to hear in segmented fashion a couple of conversations that I had with a Mormon apologist. I'm a pastor in Utah. I talk to Mormons all the time. And so this young man, he's a college student and he defends the Mormon faith. So we've had we've had 3 online discussions. And so that's broken up into 7 episodes over the next 7 weeks for you guys. And hopefully it will help you learn some stuff about Mormonism that maybe you didn't know, and help you to answer objections to the faith from a Mormon perspective, and you can respond to those with biblical insights. So that's what's going to be coming up, at least in the immediate future. And after that, we'll have some more content that we'll share through the podcast leading up to the big season 2 premiere.
yes, and as we get closer to that season 2, another thing that we have in the works is that we're developing a website for the podcast, and so we'll make you guys aware of that as well once we get closer to the release of that. So yeah, there's just a lot of really exciting and interesting and cool things going on now that we can't really share how excited we really are about the things that we've got planned for season 2. So
It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's free. So
yeah,
there's no reason for you not to listen to it. All right. We're not going to do like a members group. We're not planning on asking for donations. It's just content that we want to be able to provide purely for free, that will help the local church think through these issues, because that's where our heart is. Our heart is for the local church to be healthy and to think biblically and wisely through these issues. So,
and
go ahead.
in season 2, I was just going to say too, we mentioned that there's going to be these interviews. That's not the totality of season 2. All right, there's so much more to season 2 that we have planned and we are working on even now, that are going to take, again, that season 1 lays the foundation for additional conversations moving forward. So we're going to start diving into some particular issues and answering some common questions and objections that might be raised, and try to dive into those a little bit deeper, so that we can have a better understanding of how to apply the concepts we talked about in season 1, so that we can do theology.
Yeah. This will be good. And we want to hear from you too. I want to reiterate that point. So reach out to us any way you can. Facebook, our personal pages, the podcast page, email show@dotheology.com. Get a hold of us and we'll dialogue with you. Thank you for listening. And hopefully you can keep listening to this and benefiting from this, and sharing it with people who need to hear. Until next time.
Do theology.
I didn't use the new tagline, the new motto.
That's okay. Well, we can, I don't know, we can work that in somewhere.
All right.